I thought we would do something a little bit different today. We at Bardsy do a lot of work into helping writers, and we have a quasi-scientific bent. So the idea is we carefully look at writers in general and then at writers we've worked with and try to figure out whether our help is indeed helping. Part of that goes into our tools research, but the other half is something I've been quite interested in for a long time, which you could call it the psychology of success. And just to introduce today's conversation, it's very hard to study. From a scientific perspective, you're trying to figure out what made successful writers successful. And the problem with most inquiries into this subject is they start with success and they try to work backward. So you talk to, and we've thought about doing this, right? A number of case studies on successful writers, and then looking back at what their first project was, how they developed that, where they broke through, things of that nature. Then the other way is just to interview successful writers. And that, I think, presents a problem. And the main reason is something we've touched on already, which is the fallibility of memory. Right? And people just don't remember what happened to them last week, let alone years ago. There's a lot of very rigorous studies of eyewitness testimony that bears on this. And you can translate that to the problem of a writer talking about their career 5 or even 20 years after they first began. And then the second issue, of course, is they're going to shape the story to suit that particular audience, whether it's posterity, whether it's sort of some personality they've been developing. But there's reason to believe that their answers to questions like, how did you get started? Things of that sort are not going to necessarily represent the truth. And it's not the case that they're lying, it's just the case that they can't reconstruct those factors that gave rise to their success. So any budding or more experienced scientist would tell you you need to do a good comparison. And the way to do that comparison is to take a pool of writers and talk to them. We're obviously not going to do any kind of experiment or random assignment, but we're going to talk to them and then track their career, as much as possible, and then sort of see where they ended up. So that's the premise for today. And if it sounds too Svengalian, let's skip that part and go to the alternate premise for today, which is to get to know you guys, and more importantly, to let writers who are nearer to the start of their career, and in some cases pre-success, speak to other writers who are also near the start of their career and pre-success. So with that premise, I thought I would toss off an opening question and just ask each of you to respond in turn to this simple question: how did you get into writing? What motivates you? So Cece, would you like to start?
Yes. So I've always been an avid reader, and at the very young age of 15, I discovered that I could write the books that I like to read. So I've been writing ever since, and now I've lost my train of thought. What else is the question?
What's your
What's the rest?
motivation? So what's your motivation that gets you in there to keep carrying on day by day?
I feel like I'm very passionate about the stories that I want to tell, and I enjoy creating characters in atmospheric worlds and connecting with readers.
Great. So you want to tell us about your first book and what happened to it?
Um, my first book was a paranormal, um, paranormal fallen angels, and it was shelved because I was not ready to write it. Lots of attempts there, but one day I will revisit it. And that was it is shelved.
It is shelved. And your second book, what
My Yeah, my second one is A Faith and Flame, that released March of 2024. It is the first in a epic romantasy trilogy.
Good. And you've published, I believe, the second and the third books in that series.
Yeah, so it's officially a completed series as of January. Yes.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so what are you working on now?
I am working on my next series, which is a pirate romantasy that is a planned duology. So just a 2-book series.
And that's what we're working on in class today, in group, I should say. Good. Thank you, Cece. So Justin, how about you start off with the same question?
I did not come from, oh gosh, am I here? Okay, I was frozen for a second. I didn't come from a very artistic family, very supportive family, but still a family that would probably much rather me have been doing things that were very stable for my life. I went to college for acting. I found a joy in storytelling in general. And I wasn't expecting to find that. But there was something about something about reading the words, becoming other characters, and something like that was really magical, and I found a love for that. But over the years, I realized that I had a much more a deeper love for creating those characters, making them, and watching other people be able to bring them to life. So I got into writing with theater and film. Found a lot of love in dialogue specifically. I loved just any scene with people talking back and forth a lot is always my favorite. I think there's a lot to love there. And I took my acting stuff to LA, kind of the top of the pandemic, and just what a time to realize that you're not doing exactly what you wanted to be doing. And I realized that I wanted to be writing, and instead of, as they say, putting, half-assing 2 things, I decided I need to whole-ass 1 thing, and started, making the transition over to writing. And that took place a lot with film work for about 3 years. But the film industry is in a weird place right now. And I found a love for literary writing just through exploring different ways to express what was on my mind. And found that maybe only a couple months before I started coming here, to be honest. So this whole world is very new to me, the last 1.5 years, really. And I found a deep love for it, and it's something that I really want to see where it goes.
Great. So let me ask the same follow-up question. What gets you motivated on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis?
I really like making people laugh. I've always liked that. The world kind of sucks, and if I can make it suck a little bit less, that's kind of where my motivation comes from.
Good. Preaching to the choir. And tell us a little bit about your current project.
So my current project that Adam and this group have been so patiently reading through as I figure it out over the last almost year is a collection of short stories that all encompass the same fantasy town, the characters in the same fantasy town, and how their lives kind of intersect. In the way of, like, I don't know, you could say like Love Actually, that kind of, if you're looking for a movie relation kind of thing like that. And I've found a lot of joy in taking up a lot of different perspectives in a small amount of time, and trying to figure out how that community comes together. And that's what we've been working on, figuring out exactly what this oddball of a project is going to be, and how it's going to succeed for the last about year.
Very nice. Thank you, Justin. And Kim, same 2 questions for you.
So I feel like I've just always kind of been a writer. Oh, there, my screen froze too. One of my earliest memories, I think it was in the 3rd grade, I won like a Young Authors Award for like a little book that I wrote, and I just kind of have just been writing from there. Went to college for creative writing, so it's just kind of just always been something I've been passionate about and just something I've always wanted to do. I've always had a very active imagination ever since I was young. I didn't really come from a family of creatives. It just kind of happened for me. And yeah, it's just, as corny as it is, I just feel like I've just always kind of been writing as far as I can remember. So
Great. Tell us about your current project.
So my current project, basically it's set in this spiritual afterlife for all entities that are now considered myths. And it follows the demoness Amit, who is searching for purpose and self-worth since becoming a myth in this world. So.
And this is your first formal project.
This is, yeah, most of my background is in short stories. So this is my first tackle at a novel. So.
Good. How did you come to write something about Babylonian mythology?
So with this book, I think it was just one of those like random shower thoughts where I was like, so what are all the gods and goddesses doing now? And that's just kind of how it went off through. And the first scene was the scene of them kind of in that AA meeting where they're going around in a circle and basically being like, hello, my name is Dionysus. I was once the god of wine and now I'm a myth. And just kind of accepting that, because especially just these entities and their egos, like what are they doing now that they're not worshipped? And I just thought that there was a story there, and so I ran with it.
Interesting. So how many of these shower thoughts did you have, and how often do you get them? Ideas for a story like this.
I have like a legal pad of what I call a shower thoughts, so just lists of all the different like novels and stories that I want to like tackle, or even just like sparks of thought that I'm like, oh, there's a story there. Because like I said, I do write a lot of short stories there. So sometimes they'll become a short story, or sometimes I'm like, nope, there's a novel worth of material here. But I would say I always put my legal pad in the bathroom. So when I get out of the shower, I can jot down whatever I was thinking, because they happen all the time. So often, I would say, at least daily, at least, if not weekly.
And you think that this project was, what made you select this one as opposed to all the other entries on the legal pad?
I think because it was the most fleshed out for me. Like I could see the scenes, I could see the chapters, I could see my protagonist. It wasn't just a fleck of a thought like so many of them are. I feel like this one solidified first, so I ran with it before it went away.
More mountain to mine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And what keeps you going on the day-to-day, week-to-week basis?
So for me, because I didn't really have that person in my life who also writes stories or was super creative or anything, I feel like I keep writing because, like, as corny as it is, I write for like the little girl I was who like just wanted to write books and everything. And now I also have a 6-year-old niece who I'm really close with. So in my head, I'm like, you know, if this is ever something she wanted to pursue, or wanted to pursue anything in life, I want to keep going to be that example for her to keep going and to follow your passion. So it's like for my former self and then for the young girls in my life now. So
very nice. I wanted you to touch on the same question, Cece. What drew you to this project, and how many other projects did you consider before choosing this one?
The pirate romantasy versus
yes.
I felt I am really inspired by a lot of the travel that I get to do, and I visited the Amalfi Coast. And at the same time, I was watching, I don't know if anyone has seen the show Sandman on Netflix, and there's a lot of walking within dreams. And I think that the year that show came out, it was like my favorite show of the year. I absolutely loved it. And it was like gothic and emo and great. But while I was traveling in Italy, I was like thinking about this would be such a fun setting for pirates. And then what if we were hunting the treasure via dream magic? And so it was like this like idea that I had on a train, literally from Rome to Milan. And I think I just felt very compelled by that idea in that world. And then Nyx is a deeper reflection of my own personal, I don't want to call them struggles, but challenges with anxiety, because she is faced with a lot of anxiety within her life. And as Nyx came to life, I saw a lot of like the healing that I have done with my own anxiety. And I wanted to put that in I guess, an adventure pirate novel with romance.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. Justin, same question. What drew you to this, and what other projects did you consider before choosing this one?
I've had a number of pilots that I was working on for quite some time that had some attention. I had one about a like boy in his early 20s who's babysitting like two young kids when the zombie apocalypse happens, that I was like really into for a while. And then I had another one about a punk band that gets abducted and like into outer space, and they're like awful on Earth, but find out that their music is like really good on a different planet, kind of thing like that. Both of them, I think I have to go with what Kim said too. I think that like when I visualized those projects, they felt visual to me. When I thought about this project, I found a lot of fun in the words that I was saying. Like, not only like this is one of the first projects I think I've done where the dialogue is like it's a part of it, but like I'm having more fun with the other things outside of it. The things like the interjections and stuff like that that we've worked on is something that like it, you know, if it ever gets adapted to film, that's one thing, but I don't know if it would work. Yeah, I think it's just the feeling of the medium really fits for this one. And also it's the coziest of my projects. And I think that like I'm really drawn to something that's like maybe low world stakes, but like really intense personal stakes right now.
Good. Next, new question. Kim, is there anyone in your friends, family, or anyone you knew growing up that was in the publishing industry? Like, what's the closest you've come to someone who would be a role model for a successful author in your personal life?
In my growing up, there really wasn't. I mean, I didn't even know anyone who was writing for like our small town newspapers. So, I mean, I would actually, it's not really publishing, but the librarian at my school was my biggest role model, because once I won that young authors, because I wrote about, it was like a fantasy. Anytime we would have library time, she would have a stack of books like picked out for me and be like, I think you should read these. I think she was a big role model for me, just because like she fueled the passion and like kind of gave me that permission to like do what I wanted to do. So I think she was the big one growing up. But now like I'm very thankful because I've got a community of writers here in my hometown in Grand Rapids that I'm with. A lot of them are published. I'm running a literary festival in Grand Rapids, so I get to work with published authors all the time, and all of them have just been such huge inspirations for me to keep going, and like just cheerleaders as well. So yeah, my librarian started it, and then now it's like my immediate friends that I have here are all published authors in different genres, and they motivate me to keep going.
Very nice. Blessings to librarians everywhere. Same question, Justin. What kind of personal role models did you have up to this point?
I didn't have a lot of people in writing, to be honest. I I had said earlier, I didn't come from a creative family. I kind of found that myself. And I don't know. I think there were just people that I really liked working with and telling stories with. Last year, I started, when I was still living in LA, I started a like pilot series for budding TV writers in our area in Burbank. And like once a month, we would host this thing where people would send in pilots, and I would pick like 3 that I felt fit well, and I would invite the writers out, and they would bring their own readers and everything like that. And it was technically a competition, you know, it's like you got like $50 for the bar or something like that. But honestly, I felt a lot of community in that. I met a lot of writers that had written so much that never gets to see the light of day, you know, and I think that that's a big part of our community is, you know, we write things because we feel the need to, but like not everything gets to see, you know, but gets seen by other people. And I think that that created the first sense of writer community for me. But in general, honestly, I don't have much literary. I have favorite authors, but like other than that, I haven't. This is all kind of new to me. Yeah, truthfully.
Yeah. Interesting. So 2 of you have sort of found a community that didn't exist for you growing up. And in the future, I want to pick up on this point of writing things that maybe fewer people will see. Cece, how about you? What about role models?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I didn't really have necessarily any connections to other writers in general, but my dad was very influential in introducing me to the fantasy genre. So he was an avid reader. I mean, he still is an avid reader, but he was an avid reader as a kid. And so he introduced me to like similar stories that he did. I mean, my love of Lord of the Rings comes from like us watching the marathon every Thanksgiving to this day. And my parents were very, very supportive of having a bookworm. So like I just read all the time. I can still remember the books that I picked out going to the library over the summer with my mom taking us, and always getting books like in my Easter basket because that was my hobby. And then when I started to write, I mean, they thought it was great. And I don't really think I found a community until my undergrad program, because I did major in creative writing. So that was probably the first like academic, you know, experience with other writers, which was fantastic. But yeah, I think my role models would also be authors at this point that I just love to read.
Yeah, that makes sense. All 3 of you have that in common. The last question for today. What is it, and you can call this the theme, that your current project is trying to communicate with readers? And Cece, I know you started on that a bit with a discussion of anxiety. So do you want to expand on that a bit, please?
Yes. So mine really leans on this theme that sometimes that are the harshest shackle. This is going to sound very morbid, so if we can rehash it. But like the harshest shackles are the ones of our own making, and it kind of explores the how fear is usually something that holds us back from living a real an authentic and free life. Yeah.
And you're addressing the formerly or perhaps still young person inside of you.
Yes, my inner child, as they would say.
As they say.
The very nervous, shy, anxious little Ciara.
All of our inner childs deserve some nice positive encouragement.
Yes, I agree.
Justin, same question. What's the message you're trying to deliver? I know you mentioned this, but let's try to dive in a little bit more precisely.
I think if I had to pick one, especially with this project, it's that, you know, your personal plights are still valid in a world on fire. You know, just because the world is on fire doesn't mean that you aren't as well. And I think that for who I'm writing it for, I think it's for me now. I think that like I truthfully, and like to follow Cece on this, I like not to get too dark, but like I think that the last 8 years or so, there's been some joy lost in like just the general world and in my world, even though I'm very acknowledging that there are wonderful things happening around me as well. And I think it's the stop to smell the roses thing that I've kind of forgotten over the years. And as I try to regain that, I try to put that into words and do it for myself. And hopefully it touches someone else too.
Good. Kim, last question to you. Tell us about your theme and the message you're trying to deliver to your readers.
So a lot of I want to say most of my writing has like political or societal issue undertones. So for me, a lot of this one is basically saying like political violence is not the answer for change or anything to make anything different. It's not going to work that way. So I kind of explore those themes, but then I also explore the theme of just kind of self-worth and who defines it for you. Is it outside factors? Is it those in charge, or is it you? And I mean, obviously the answer is only you can define your own self-worth. So I kind of explore both of those in my novel.
Very nice. Well, thank you all. This is an initial get to know you kind of conversation. I appreciate it. I hope anyone who watches this going forward will appreciate it. I hope reflecting back 5, 10, maybe even 20 years from now will make you appreciate it. And let's think of some more questions, right? Anything that you're interested in, anything that anyone else is interested in, we can vet them and then see whether or not we can provide interesting answers. Thank you again.
Bardsy delivers the tools, guidance, and support you need to produce compelling novels. Our well-researched and thoroughly tested approach includes our minimum complete story, a 90-second exercise that keeps your writing on track while fueling creativity. Bardsy Publishability Index, a 23-dimension checklist that offers attainable goals and provides actionable feedback. And our brand new comprehensive character developer that helps you construct unforgettable characters. Come see for yourself at Bardsy.com today. Try our workshop or enter our first chapter contest. Then, when you're ready, Elite Membership delivers writing groups, personal coaching, and a curated community. With Bardsy, your work will captivate everyone, from agents to publishers, and most importantly, your readers.